What's up everyone, I'm Tim and this is my channel 40 Times Around, where we talk about everything related to motorcycles, camping, traveling, and adventure. And today I'm going to tell you guys my top 5 tips for motorcycle camping. Stick around. Okay, so we're going to talk about 5 tips for motorcycle camping. And the first tip is going to be organize. What this means is before you leave for your trip, just get everything together. What I like to do too when I'm going motorcycle camping is I have all of my camping equipment in one bag. This makes it super easy. I know where everything is. It's easy to find. When it's time to set up camp, I pull this one bag off the back seat of my bike and everything's right there to set up. Now, if you haven't been camping in a while, you're going to want to go through all your gear and you're going to want to check everything, and this is all part of being organized, is making sure everything's there, checking that everything's in good working order. In other words, your tent doesn't have mold or it hasn't developed holes. I don't know if you have moths in your area that sometimes eat that kind of fabric. So make sure that there's no holes in the tent, there's no mold on it. You're going to want to check your sleeping bag, that the zippers are working. Make sure you have all your stakes, make sure your poles for your tent are in good working order, and that all of your equipment is working. Check the batteries on your headlamp, things like that. Okay, so tip number 2, set up before dark. Now this one is actually really important, and I've been guilty of this one quite a few times now. One of the reasons this is so important is I've actually seen guys, they'll use their headlights at night to set up camp because we pulled up to the campsite, it's dark, we've been riding all day, and they use their headlights to set up their tent, and they'll wake up in the morning to a dead battery. This can be a huge issue, especially if you're way off the beaten path. So I try to avoid it for that reason, but also you want to know your environment that you're sleeping in. You want to, get acclimated with the situation, where everything is, and kind of get to know the area, because you don't want to wake up surprised by something in the morning. In fact, I've put my tent up at night near a bush, and when I woke up in the morning, I was right next to a hornet's nest and they were just swarming around my tent. It was not a good situation, and it could have been avoided if I had set up in the daylight. I would have seen that was there. Or also, I've woken up in the morning pretty much on a dirt road because I couldn't tell that I was still on the road. I thought I was off to the side. It was really hard to tell at night. The road wasn't clear. That could have been a really bad situation if someone was driving through there in the morning or in the middle of the night. Tip number 3 is educate. This one is also very important. Now, it's really easy to fall victim to the trap of, if you're not that far off the beaten path, you're not really in a ton of danger. But you should know what the potential hazards are that you could be encountering. Now, this could be anything from vegetation. You're talking, poison ivy, poison oak, poison sumac, anything like that. You're going to want to know how to identify it, how to deal with it, how to avoid it, how to treat it if you do get infected with it. Also animals, you're going to want to know what are the potential animals you may encounter in this area. We're talking coyotes, bears, mountain lions, anything like that. And you're going to want to know how to avoid getting to know them personally. With bears in particular, storing food is so important, and not sleeping in the clothes that you cooked in, keeping your dishes clean, not leaving food around. Get to know all of these things so that you don't run into potential issues when you're out in the wild. And you don't have to be that far out in the wild to run into bears. I've seen them right on the side of the road, in fact. Just get informed on the whole situation that you're encountering, because you also want to check local regulations on, sometimes there's camping restrictions, sometimes there's campfire restrictions, and you want to get to know also the potential weather you may be encountering. Are you in a flash flood area? Are you in an area where there may be potential for wildfires or thunderstorms? Anything like that, you just want to know ahead of time. Don't be surprised by this stuff. Tip number 4 is fire starters. No matter how innovative you may be, you can't always rely on things in your environment to get a campfire going. So you want to be prepared and just have some stuff with you that you can get a fire started with. In fact, if you want to know about a few really kind of bizarre things you could get a fire started with, check out this video up here. But you're going to want, just something to get a fire going. Assume that the wood around you is going to be wet. You should know actually how to start a fire with wet wood, and how to basically heat the logs up as you roll them into the fire so that you can get a fire going, even if it's rained recently or there's just dew. You can, bring stuff with you like dryer lint, cotton balls, any kind of like store-bought fire starters, or there's a bunch of stuff you can make at home and bring with you. Just anything just to get it going, You're still gonna have to find wood, and you should know a little bit about that too, about not burning green wood because it's just going to create smoke and it's not going to do you any good. You got to find dead wood and things like that. And tip number 5 is store your gear. This is something I've kind of learned the hard way, is that whatever riding gear you have with you, you're going to want to bring that in the tent with you. And here's why. In the morning, your helmet is going to be so much warmer. If it gets cold at night, your body heat is going to get trapped inside the tent. It's going to keep your helmet warmer. There's nothing worse than waking up on a cold morning, crawling out of a tent and having to put an ice cold helmet on. I'm just not a fan of that, so bringing it in with the tent with me is a great way to avoid that. Also, your jacket is going to be bug free. You're not going to have snakes in your boots when you wake up in the morning. Even if you just put it in the vestibule of your tent, your boots, just to get them out of the open. Also, you're going to want to make sure that you keep your zippers zipped on the tent when you're coming and going. You don't want bugs getting in there. It's kind of a nightmare when you're trying to sleep and you get just one mosquito. That's all it takes. You'll have a horrible night's sleep. And a little bonus tip, something that I do, is I'll bring wet wipes into the tent with me, at least for my feet, because I've been in boots all day. I'll wipe my feet down with some wet wipes before I crawl into the sleeping bag. That way the sleeping bag stays nice for a little bit longer, and I wake up with basically clean feet, fresh pair of socks that are already in the tent with me, and whatever clothes I'm wearing, everything goes on before I get out of the tent. So my clothes are nice and warm. I get out of the tent, I'm good to start my day. And a bonus tip for you is if you're wild camping, make sure you let somebody know where you're going to be and roughly how long you're going to be gone for. This way, if something bad does happen and you don't have cell service, there's a chance that someone's going to realize, hey, he was supposed to be back 2 days ago and he's not back. Maybe let's start looking for you. Another thing too you might want to consider doing if you're way off the beaten path is always kind of have some dehydrated food with you, just in case. That could be, those MREs, or, Mountain House makes some great camping meals, or even just a packet of, tuna fish, something just to eat if you do happen to get stuck out in the wilderness for a while. Don't be caught completely unprepared. I'm actually going to be doing a video pretty soon on some survival items you should be packing with you. Make sure you keep an eye out for that. Okay, so those are the 5 tips on motorcycle camping. So I hope you guys got something out of this video. If you did, make sure you hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe if you guys want to see more videos about motorcycles, camping, traveling, and adventure. Thanks for watching. See you soon.